All right, there we go. All right, hello everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tom. What's up, buddy?
Hello, friends.
Also joining us tonight, as we're talking about fixing Beasts of Chaos, I had to go to the man who literally has based his YouTube name and channel and persona around the hooves of doom. What's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, it's nice to be back on.
Hey, it's great to have you back. I'm sorry to hear you're moving again, but I hope you get settled in your new place soon and painless. You've been making such great progress painting up Slaanesh. I don't want to see this dedication to the god of excess wane. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I certainly hope it doesn't. I was really hoping to kind of be beyond Slaanesh at this point, but everything kind of got delayed a little bit. So we'll still be working on it another month or so.
I'm in the exact same boat. It's fine. Look, you can never move past Slaanesh, okay? Take an excessive amount of time on Slaanesh. It's great, okay?
In other news, I'm selling a half of Shadow and Pain if anybody would like it.
The Slaanesh half?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, like, if you told me you were selling the dock half, I think we'd have some buyers by the end of this sentence. So.
Sold.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
All right. Well, Tom, let us get to some news, my friend. I hear there's news. Let's do news.
So rumor engine?
Nope. Pass. Pass on the rumor engine. It is the most clearly 40K rumor engine ever. It's the Imperial Aquila of the medics, like the Medic Astartes or whatever. That's what the Aquila is on the side.
So you don't think that you don't think that no crossover?
Nope.
I mean, we had another crossover announcement this week. You don't think it's part of that?
Nope.
Okay. Actually, it just dawned on me. Well, I'll do that at the end. Okay. Fine. So we had let's get to the headline of this week.
Whatever you want, man.
We had a new Lumineth story drop today.
We did. It was all right. It was fine.
And unfortunately, I don't have my balloon drop, but I was right!
There's nothing about what you said that's right in that story. You're ridiculous.
Chaos has infiltrated the Lumineth.
Mm-hmm.
They are corrupted. They're brainwashing humans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just warning you, folks. Beware the Lumineth.
Well, okay. So now let me accurately report the story, since that's not actually what it's about. It is clearly about how it is a very 1984 story. Like, I read it and I was like, that's cool. I read 1984 too. I love Big Brother, right? Because it's just their crack on that. And right. The Lumineth are like very thought policey to totalitarian, like in the way that Heish and the way that they see their nature of like this oppressive perfectionism, right? And so they feel the need to perfect the humans that are there with them as well, right?
And so bring them into alignment with their revelation.
Yes, they enlighten them. But it's clearly not like there's no chaos taint there. That's where you're just filling in nothing. You're filling in nonsense there. But anyway,
how the light of Heish is harsh.
Sure.
And grates at the soul.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun little story written. It's like a journaling style of a guy to his wife or something. And, yep.
Just warning you.
The most interesting part about it was it takes place in a city of Sigmar in Heish, which is cool.
Right.
Because
and the dude's like, I can't wait till all cities of Sigmar everywhere are ground into dust in the shining cities of light.
That's not actually what he said, but there is an important distinction there. He said, I can't wait till they've fallen away and only the cities of the elves remain, which is a very classic elven thing, right? Like, I'll be here, you'll be dead, your children will be dead, their children will be dead, their children's 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 children will be dead, and I will be here unchanged, right? Like, you're as relevant to me as the life of a mayfly. That's the elvish perspective, right? Like, it's you know, it's hard for them to get to care or to be like that. They always just think they're better because they've seen every generation of humans come and go like a flash in the pan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It seemed to just be like, my honest read on it is it's nice, classic high elf stuff. High elf's gonna high elf. They're gonna be haughty. This is why everyone hates them, because this is their attitude. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So there you go. Yes. Yeah, cool. It's fine enough story. Like I said, the interesting thing to me about it was I want to be like, cool, when are we getting the rules for that high-ish city of Sigmar? That's what I want to know. Like, I want a new city I want new city rules in every book. In every Broken Realms book, there should be like, add new city or two as we continue to bounce around the realms. Everyone. So, there you go.
Mm.
Okay. What's next, Tom?
We for next month, those tricky elves are distributing their minis and their coins.
Yeah, I hate to break it to you,
GW
it's actually
stores.
this month.
Oh, this month. I guess
it is March.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So this month, if you go into GW store, beware, you're going to be accosted by them trying to push their infantry on you, their phalanx, and their dirty elven coins. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
Yeah. So you can pick up your Lumineth coin at your nearest GW if you drop some cash.
Sure. And you can get the little free warden, is what you mean by pushing free elves on you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
My nearest GW store is 45 minutes away from me, and I'm like, nope, it's not. I didn't go there for the Slanesh coin. I'm not going for this.
Yeah, but my opinion of this is pretty mixed. But...
Yeah. Yeah, being a collector, how much did this tempt you, Hooves? Because you are like the preeminent collector.
It is tempting. I did get the first coin in December, but I at this point I've accepted the fact that I can't get everything, and this is one of the things that I'm willing to pass. For the simple reason that you got to think like I could go to the GW and pay full price, or I can go to a different retailer and get a nice discount. So the coin is kind of almost costing you money. It's kind of a balance there. The one model, it's nice. It might tempt some people. It's kind of cool to paint up. But like for me, I take very meticulous control of the point values that I have. And like one model.
What are you doing with that? It's not a unit.
It annoys me. Yeah, so I have like a unit of 11 and somehow
it's bits.
Working yeah,
it's
I
bits.
Guess so.
That's what it is.
It's just, you never put it together, keep it in the bits box.
I mean, for me, my GW is like a quarter mile away.
If.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I may not get that Lumineth. We'll see.
Sure.
We'll see. But it's a great deal for anybody that wants to get in and get started painting on those elves.
It is a good tester for paint schemes. That's the idea.
It is. It's
yes.
amazing for that. Yep. This week we also saw background stories for the Cursed City drop, and they're pretty sweet.
Yeah, good stuff. We got like the Zombos and their boss, the little Gravedigger guy. We got Radizak or whatever his name is, the wolf boss, the wolf vamp dude.
No, let's be very clear. The wolf ogre.
I thought they said now he's not an ogre.
No, he is an ogre.
Oh,
yeah, I thought.
Look,
he is an
it's
ogre.
back and forth. He's definitely a wolf-inspired dude. He killed the two-headed wolf. He's clearly a pirate. I agree with that.
Yes.
He showed up with a fleet.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
He is a
vampire. So
yes, we got a vampire.
We got him.
Folks.
We got him. Where's my balloon
drop?
Woo! We got him.
So we got a vampire and 2 vampire zombies.
Done. Successful. Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Well done.
Thanks. We tried hard.
Yeah.
So that dropped. Check them out. With that, we also got like the rat vampire that's tied to the Cursed City.
Yeah,
because there's a new. There's a new model announcement that they're going to do every Monday, which is exciting. Which is not their rumor engine, but basically revealing whole models That's exciting. And this week was a vampire draped in rats because of reasons.
Well, do you know the reason? It's cool. It's actually a fun story. I do like
the guy ate
that.
a bunch of rats. That's
because
fine.
he hid in a corpse cart to escape. Yes, and
right.
He could
yes, he angeled his early rat existence, or his early vampire existence, eating rats. I get it. And so now he wears them like a cloak.
Why not?
He can turn into a rat. Yes.
Sure. Reasons. And so I mean that's cool. I am glad he exists for some people. I mean, that's right up your alley, right, Vince? Like, rat.
All right, this guy, I got a bone to pick with this guy, okay? Let me tell you what about this.
Go on.
This guy over here. This is cultural appropriation, okay? I am offended, sir. Okay? Stealing the rat thing, trying to make it your own. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay. That Skaven are a culture with a long and proud history. I do not appreciate this random vampire stealing our whole shtick and turning into a rat and being rat-like and wearing dead rats. This is it's insanity. I don't cotton to it. I don't appreciate it any. And you, sir, are canceled. That's what I have to say to you, Mr. Vampire Guy. No, I mean, he's fine. Like, it's a cool look. Joking aside. He's fine. It's a neat story. I like his little tails hanging out the back. I want to see if you can actually see him under the cloak. Like, they kind of... Are they actually in the cloak, or do they just pop out the bottom?
So, it's funny that you say that. Like, is it the tails sewed onto the like trail, or are there actual rats running underneath his cape? Now I looked, I zoomed in to see if I could see like any beady little eyes looking out of the shadows, and
Enhance. Yeah, I got it.
Yes, exactly. So that was really disappointed actually. So I was really hoping like that was the thing, but I didn't get that.
But yeah, I mean he's fine. Like look wise, he's cool. He's got a swagger to him. I like a cane. More models need canes.
Agreed. Yeah.
So, I'm not a fan of this like single infantry model on a 60 mil oval thing. Just as a sort of general concept, I don't love that. Makes those heroes really weird to move around because they're like trying to move around like cavalry in the middle of people. But it's fine. Like, it's him and Scragrot and that elf from 40K are the 3 times I can think of they did this, right? The lady with the cat.
Okay.
But, like, just keep them on infantry bases of some kind. That's cool. I'm good with that. It's weird because the base always ends up looking like this. Right? Because the model doesn't actually take up the whole space. It's always somebody with stuff dragging out behind them is when they do it. Right? So at any rate, but yeah, he's cool dude. I don't know if he's not a villain of the box, and they didn't say he's the one that comes with the book, so I assume he's in the normal vampire army, and the normal vampire army will have some connections to this city in some way. So we'll see. Like, that is say he's part of the Soulblight Gravelords. But again, stop stealing Skaven's thing. Tom, back to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm mixed on him. Like, he's fine.
Sure.
I'm glad he exists for some people. Bellacor's video dropped announcing book 3 of Broken Realms. Bellacor, baby.
Yeah. We still don't know when
model.
book 2's coming out, but we know what book 3 is.
I mean, it's this month sometime.
One can hope.
I mean, it will be.
All right, Hooves, how do you feel about Be'lakor? What do you want to see? What do you want them to see? What do you want them to do with Be'lakor, like, as a concept? Not rules wise. I don't care about that.
Sure.
Like, what do you want to see Be'lakor do in this narrative, right? Because that's what we care about with these things.
Yeah, I mean, I just want the narrative itself to be kind of changed and different, right? Like, I think Chaos is pretty along the board, pretty standardized. This guy's gonna hopefully shake things up and add a little bit of flavor into the mix. I mean, this guy's the first Demon Prince,
Right.
So let's hope he has the rules and the actual cool sculpt to kind of make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for a new Be'lakor. I do retain hope that there's like an alternative build in there that is non-Be'lakor Demon Prince, right? So that would be nice. But even if not, it's fine. If they don't, I mean, here's what I'll say: either do that, or Be'lakor becomes like half the Demon Princes on the tables, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Right.
With like I could pie chart this 50. If you don't make an alternate build that's a generic Demon Prince, then 50% of all Demon Princes will be Be'lakor, 40% will be creature caster models, and 10% will be that old goofball.
Do you not think that they will change his base size?
No, probably not. I mean, they've kept that kind of like Demon Princey base pretty consistent.
Yeah.
So it's like a 60 mil round, so he'll probably stay on a 60 mil round.
Well, I'm just saying if they want to break that and make not all Demon Princes him without an alternate build, like I could see them bumping it to like 100.
Even if they
and him still not be like Bloodthirster size.
Sure. I mean, he's not going to be clearly, but my point is at the same time, okay, put him on 100. He'll still fit on a 60. Like,
fair enough.
Sure.
You know, that's like you can make Angelo DiCello's Golden Demon winners like entry where you like so when you win a Golden Demon, then there's a special contest at Warhammer Fest if you're going to go back the next year that you can do a model and it's just like a little special contest for previous winners, okay? And the only restriction is it has to be obviously all GW models just like normal, and it has to be on a 60 mil base. That's the restriction.
Yep.
Okay. Angelo DiCello built a building on a 60 mil base, a 3-story building that had 10 miniatures on it fighting across the 3 different stories. So you can put a lot on a 60 mil base, turns out.
Apparently. Yep. She probably put like 100-pound weight underneath that.
I mean, it's big. So yes, let's hope for a dual kit. I mean, I just want to see Be'lakor put some actual strife into chaos. Like, act as a bulwark against Archaon, create some chaos in chaos.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
It should be an interesting model because it unlike the current model, which is kind of resin, it's a small model in comparison to sculpt. So this will be a larger sculpt, even though it might be.
He's tiny.
Base. Yeah, Bellacor's a little baby. He's a little baby. It is sculpt.
I like my little baby Be'lakor.
Yeah,
he's glad that I'm gonna have to pay a new one.
He looks bad. It's a bad model.
I love mine.
Sure. Yeah.
All like 2 pounds of painted tin or whatever he is.
Oh, sure, because you still have the metal. Yeah, I have the metal version. Yeah. That's fine. So, anyways, Chris Thiel said, "Is it 60 or 65?" Yes. Okay. Cool. What's next?
All of the above. We had 2 events go live, or at least announce that they're coming here in the U.S. this week. NashCon went live for signups and promptly sold out within a couple hours. And so I believe they're capped at 45 right now, but that could change given the health stuff that's, the ever-changing circumstances. And then the Holy Havoc announced that they are going to have signups starting July 1st and that they have locked-in dates. And so they have posted those for the fall.
And I am in for both of these. Absolutely. I am, knock on wood, throw salt over my shoulder, whatever I need to do. Kiss a 4-leaf clover on the Blarney Stone or whatever good luck is supposed to be a thing. But I'm looking to be past all of this nonsense by summer. I'm looking to be hitting those tournaments, seeing people, just licking everybody again for no reason whatsoever. Just the standard stuff you do at a tournament.
Are you? Do you have your vaccine? Are you in line yet, Vince?
I mean, everybody's in line in some way or another, right? So we got time. It's fine.
Licking people. But yeah, so it's exciting. I'm signed up as well for NashCon, so I am excited to go. I'm excited to roll some dice with folks.
Tom actually has a tournament to look forward to. You're gonna watch him slowly start painting more stuff.
It's so funny because, like, Brennan Melnick kind of pushed me. And he's like, "So you got your list yet?" And I was like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
Because I started like spinning out like all the possibilities and realized that like I now in a meta not knowing when the new GHB is going to come out and if we have a new edition before NashCon.
Mm.
And I'm looking at 3 top tier armies in a B level army or a C level fat metal army that I want to take. And all of them are going to take different like model painted work. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah,
Oh,
man,
no.
welcome back to it. It's time again, Tom. Time to get back into it, buddy.
No, this is great. It's nice to see these events opening up. People clearly want to get back into this and start playing games. So let's hope it happens.
I agree.
Now, you guys are probably going to go to Havoc as a team, right?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know what you're taking, or is that still a secret? You don't
Probably. Oh, I mean, we'd tell you if we knew. We haven't even discussed yet.
Yeah.
We don't hide things like that.
Yeah.
But
it takes Tom so long to make an army, so it's like, you know.
Yeah, it'll take me 6 months to paint, which is the problem.
Right.
I was really wanting to take like Order of Azir Witch Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that'll be an army by the time that
I'll run Giants, Tom. It's cool. 1 mega, 3 babies, good to go, 1,000 points. Done.
Well, you know, I could run Giants too in any army because you could just ally them in, and as like because they're not.
Well,
they
you
don't
do whatever you
go
want. I'm just saying,
points.
my army's 4 figs. I've never had an
No,
easier time.
I could run
transporting
I could run like Ideneth and still run 1 giant.
You could, yeah. You could have 1 mega in there too. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Or
But then you got to fit in the rest of your army. That would be the challenge.
Yeah, but so it's funny. I thought about running Suns. Like I was like, I don't know, I could run Suns, and then I was like, why would I run Suns, which is going to be 1 mega and 3 babies, versus 1 mega and just any other half of an army?
Because you want to be cool.
But I can play anything. I could do anything for the other 5.
You could do anything, but then you would be less cool. I think you're missing the point here, which is cool.
Come on.
I understand.
Not true.
Somewhere you're going wrong, Tom.
So anyway, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what we're going to do. I'm going to try to talk Vince into something unusual that he's never done before. I don't know what that is yet, but it worked with when we did Iron Jaws, and he fell in love with that army. And so I'm going to see if we can find something else that he's never done, and we can do something weird. Get weird.
Smash Bat, let's go. Get that new dude, and I'll just roll out some FEC. You can fit him in the case. You can fit Smash Bat.
Yeah, but I don't know what pairs with that unless I literally do like something a full.
It doesn't matter. You don't need anything. You could have a bunch of just like, you know, the 10 of clubs folded up and glued to bases. Buddy, Smash Bat will handle the whole enemy army. He's good. Smash Bat can smash that. It's fine.
Does it work if your general is a warlord or whatever?
I don't know.
Like, however, yeah, we'd have to see with the command traits how that's going to work.
I mean, you need the command trait, but anyways, okay.
Yeah.
Let's. But at any rate, what else do we got? This isn't part of the news.
Oh, sorry. Just went off on events.
Tournaments are coming back. We're all very excited, and I know there's a couple coming up here very soon down in Australia. Down here in America, we've got months. They've got both South Australia GT coming up, SAGT, and Victoria GT. I think is the other one. Both of whom I'm excited to see all the lists for. I mean, the Aussies are deep into it. It's never, you know, they're doing well down there, and there's a lot of hot tournament action going on. So there you go.
Yep. Another weird news item that popped up this week, and I'm going to announce it because, I mean, we don't normally cover 40K things here in the news, but I'm going to announce it anyways because, you know.
Oh, what is Tom going to talk about?
His other hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
So it appears that I was 9 months ahead of the curve. So a partnership between GW and Wizards of the Coast was announced to produce a 40K themed Magic product. Interestingly enough. And so it just makes me wonder on the other side of like whenever the AOS Champions license dries up, if there might be another AOS related partnership. So yeah, so that'll be a real interesting, like, this is not a world I could have ever have imagined. I mean, I don't know, Vince, did you see a crossover between Wizards and GW ever happening?
Wizards operating profit.
I would say not related to Hero Quest. Because like that's a crossover I could have seen.
Wizards of the Coast net profit, okay, was something like $480 million last year. Net profit. Net.
I understand.
Yeah. Okay. They made more money than, like, profit-wise, than all of the rest of Hasbro. Any other division.
Wait, you're saying Games Workshop.
No, I'm saying Wizards. The Wizards division of Hasbro.
Okay. Yep. And they ended the year on $1.48 billion of liquid cash.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, my answer is yes, because, like, Wizards has figured out how to sell Magic cards really, really well, and they're like, here's some more people we can sell Magic cards to. So,
sure. I'll be buying them.
That business runs
I mean, right, Doom?
Yeah.
They're running, what, a 47% margin right now? Do you know how insane that is for a B2C business of that size to run that kind of a margin? Probably because you're selling tiny pieces of cardboard.
You're literally printing money.
Yeah. So, at any
rate,
rate,
more like lottery tickets. You're literally printing lottery
tickets. Yeah. Anyways, yes, it doesn't surprise me. Like, I had zero interest in this or whatever it means. My one hope for it, I'll tell you what I would be excited about if they ever did do AOS. Okay? Would be, we'd get some cool art. Because card art is, I like a lot of card art they do. A lot of it's very boring. I find a lot of it pretty, like, rote. But in every set, there are always a few standouts of really wonderful pieces of art that they do. It's not the majority, it's the minority, but they're there. And, so that would be cool, because we get some neat art takes on all this stuff, which would be great.
I'm excited. So, I'm not a big 40K fan, but I like this partnership enough that I'll buy a set of it. They've said so far that it's going to be a Commander deck set. We don't know if that will come with an actual, like, full set, because they are doing a full set of Lord of the Rings as well.
Yeah.
And so we don't know if the 40K one is only Commander decks. They've mentioned that it will include Commander decks. But we'll see. I want to support the partnership. I love seeing these two companies in conversation. So obviously it merges two of my horizons. So
for my part, I own a lot of models, but I also have a pretty broad collection in terms of comics and card games, including, and going back to early 2000s when the first 40K card games came out, I collected those pretty aggressively, and pretty much all the others that came after. So this is right up my alley for sure.
There you go.
All right. That's the news.
There you go. Okay. Well, very good then. Let's, gentlemen, go to some pick of the week, as I had to switch over to the thing where I can see the time code. All right. Pick of the week. So, Doom, what would you like to share with everybody?
I'm going to shout out Paul Conti, Radio Free Hammerhall, who's been a frequent guest on your show. And we're all YouTubers. We're all pretty good friends. He is relaunching the topic of the week, which is a video series that you used to do, Vince, probably a couple years ago, where basically you'd come up with a topic and then other YouTubers would jump on board and make a response. Paul's video this week, I think, is like balancing the hobby and family life, which is kind of a struggle for some people. And it's an interesting topic. And I love the fact that he's pushing this, because I pretty much started my channel years ago in responding to these types of topics. So there's several other YouTubers that are going to hopefully kind of jump on board with regular responses, and it should be good. We're looking forward to this too.
Nice. Tom, what about yourself?
I want to talk about a Facebook group this week.
Okay.
Did you download those photos I sent you?
No, I don't. I didn't know if you sent me photos, I didn't catch it.
That's unfortunate. It's okay. I will not be able to share these images, but So I'm gonna spruik the Dark Age of Sigmar AOS 28 group. So we've talked about kind of the AOS 28 stuff in recent, years past. It's kind of a darker, kind of grittier take.
Yeah.
And the Kylan Day posted his Tombcast Eternals warband, which was a Tomb Kings inspired take on Stormcast.
Yep.
And it is just stunning. That's what I'll say. He pulled a bunch of heads out of, or a bunch of like the head decorations out of the Zinchian 40k stuff that and did like animal head swaps and stuff like that for Ushabti style on some of the Retributors, and it's just stunning. And so I want to encourage you guys to check out that group, and hopefully you can find that post in that group. So,
okay, awesome.
AOS, Dark Age of Sigmar AOS 28.
Love it. Love it. All right, for myself, I'm going to talk about our good buddy Doom and Darkness, who had a battle report between his Ogre Maw tribes and the Lumineth. So if you want to see all of the reasons I hate LRL, sort of fundamentally wrapped up into a single video, because he was playing like a pure Geometrica list or something. Or not pure, a largely Geometrica list that also happened to have Teclis and the Calathar and the and something else in it. Oh, and of course Archers and the Sentinels. Yeah, anyways, so if you want to see all the reasons I dislike LRL, there's a fun battle report that you can watch. It is an interesting battle report. Doom has a lot of fun with it. There's a particularly great moment that I enjoyed and agree with Doom on completely with the... oh my god, the name just flew right out of my head. The dumb endless spell, dual magic balls, light and dark. What am I talking about, Tom? Why can't I think of the name?
Say that again.
The two little balls, one's light, one's dark. They go forward. One gives you neg 1 to hit and does D3 mortal wounds. The other one does neg 1 attack.
You'll get there.
And D3 mortal wounds. I'm really not getting there. What is it? Geminids. Thank you, Lord. My brain is melting today. At any rate,
I enjoyed you just like
I can recount all of the rules for the spell. It's 80 points.
Yeah.
I can tell you how far
everyone in the chat
how
knows.
far it moves.
Right.
I've got all of the. I can see the entire rules text in my head, and yet could not summon the name for the life of me. Anyways, yes, Geminids. So, thank you everybody who was responding in the chat. So, at any rate, I agree with Doom. Hashtag I'm with Doom on Geminids. So, at any rate, watch the battle report. It's a lot of fun. I'll link it below. Cool. All right. So, cool. So that's pick of the week. All right, gentlemen, let's talk some hobby time. All right. So, hobby time. Hooves, what have you been working on, man?
Slanesh.
So hold on. I need to jump back. Somebody mentioned this in the comments, and I just missed it. Yeah, it dropped this afternoon, later this evening, so it didn't make it on the list. But there was an announcement of the AOS World Championships that got announced today, which was basically the AOS community that was part of that was running the ETC kind of global event has broken away. And they're going to be hosting their own set of events, much like the 40K broke away from ETC as well. So they're managing their own kind of global, international tournament community. Sure. And so that dropped this week.
Are those mostly in Europe, like the tournaments, or are they?
I think, traditionally they have been, because it was the European tournament team championship.
Yeah, and this is obviously where the 4 and 6 person sort of style team event type of thing is usually how they run. But there's also a single, more traditional.
They're going to be doing, so they'll have their traditional 6 person team tournament, and they're also doing a singles tournament as well. That'll run concurrently. So I think this next one is going to be in Milan, is what they announced.
Cool.
So
I'm going.
If I was going to Italy, it'd be for a very different competition.
Right.
Fair enough. So, anyways, I needed to mention that as part of the news.
Nope, you're totally right. Yeah, I forgot. It came up at the end of the
comments. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I had
All
already
right.
written up the news at that point, so I'm sorry, everybody.
Yep.
So back to Hobby Journey?
Back to Hobby Journey,
Yep,
yes.
sorry.
All right.
Hooves,
yeah.
what have you been working on? Hit me with that hobby goodness.
Yeah, no, it's Slaanesh Demons. I started basically AOS painting Slaanesh Demons, and I decided over a few years I didn't quite like the paint scheme I decided on. So I did the most horrible thing imaginable, given how much unpainted models I have, and spent some time kind of repainting an army. Kind of getting nowhere, but the army is now finished. I repainted all the demons I had for Slaanesh. I have some Mortals and Hedonites on the way, but basically everything I ordered probably will just get shelved, unfortunately. But I am painting currently kind of a few picked mortals from the Shadow Pain box set and stuff like that. So.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the Hellstriders have to come back down eventually, right? They can't look at 140 and 150 points and think in any way that's the correct amount of points.
That was the one thing that I think shocked me the most, because I've never looked at that unit and thought,
like,
well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So
definitely worth a 50% price increase.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
So what do you think, Vince? A 30 to 40% reduction?
Something like that, yeah. At any rate, Tom, what have you been painting?
A little bit of dwarves.
Is that a pun?
And actually, I've been spending a lot of time in my hobby time has been sorting old toys. I am.
Sure.
I'm trying to clear out space in my basement. That's the best way to say this.
Sure.
And like I have a mountain of boxes, and so I'm trying to get all that moved. And so that will open up funds potentially for more hobby stuff. So
there you go.
Exciting.
I think my parents asked me what they wanted me to do, what they wanted done with all the like sort of toys that I had, because they had a box toys, in an attic or something for when I was a kid. And I think my answer was, I couldn't care less. Go donate them to children who will play with them. But two different paths.
I mean, I couldn't really do that with my aircraft carrier.
Oh, you could donate that. You'd make some kid who's got who understands nostalgia very happy, or some 38-year-old man very happy. That's going to be one of the two.
I mean, I'm going to make a 38-year-old man happy, and then make a 39-year-old man happy too.
Sure, yeah, it's this is the nature of the thing. Yeah. So for my hobby time, I finished up Mr. Demon here. I'll post him up this weekend, so he's all done. I kind of hate him, but that's all right. I'll talk about it in the post of why I hate him. But so I finished him up, and now I'm going to work on this guy.
What is it? Is that from Creature Caster?
No. So these are both from the same source. So this guy right here, this guy is from Archvillain Games. He's the 3D printer guy, sculptor. You can subscribe to his Patreon, and he had a whole demon set he did recently, which was good. I like most of it. This guy is over-designed, over-sculpted. Like, I want to go to Arch and be like, you need to wheel that back like 80%. You're way over the line on just weird, inexplicable textures and stuff. But Archvillain Games, he also did this guy, our little bird caster here. This one's actually perfect. I'm excited to paint this one, because this one he did just the right amount. It's little textures, little stuff, but it's not overcomplicated. Beautiful model. So I'm excited about this, dude. Yeah, I'm just in a demony mood, mainly because our mutual friend who subscribes to that was like, bought the whole thing and had printed a bunch of them, and he's like, I don't think I'm going to do anything with these two. Do you want them? And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. I like cool big demons, so...
He's printing me boats right now.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Really good ones.
And the answer as to why I'm not painting Hedonites is because I'm still waiting on my shipment, so that's fine. Which is no big deal. Like, I'm not...
For those of you that don't know, the U.S. shipments of Slaanesh were seriously delayed because of the storm.
Right, yeah. So, it's fine. Like, I'll probably get it next week or whatever, so... they've reached out to me. So.
I'm supposed to get mine on later this week, Vince. So.
Nice. Oh, you're ahead. You're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Well, you're closer to the coast, so there you go. That's how it works, right? These guys are fun, and it's cool. I like painting big demon monsters, so good times. All right. Cool. Well, gentlemen, shall we turn to our main topic, which is fixing the Beasts of Chaos? Yes, we're going to. Here we go.
Absolutely.
I mean, we can try.
Oh, Tom.
Tom,
don't be a downer. That's not what we're looking for. This is going to be a fun show. Here we go. I want to start with the strengths. Before we get into any fixes, I want to talk about the good stuff of this army, the concept of it. So I'm gonna rattle some stuff here, and I want you guys to tell me if you think I'm in the right space. So Beast obviously is an army that has a lot of strong adherents, right? There are people who really, really love this army. And the nature of this army, pretty classically, it has had for a while a strong identity, right? It's like a horde army in the truest sense of the word, that also has some elite elements to it, so it can play in that way as well. It has this like true sort of embodiment of this weird meld between chaos and destruction and the ruinous, end of civilization and all of that, right? That they just want to tear everything down. Like, it's got a cool hook. They have this place as kind of like the quote-unquote first children of chaos, right? They're like, if you read the lore in their book, it's really nice the way that they have different creation myths for themselves in Age of Sigmar, just as in the old world too, right? So like, I think Beast has a lot of good stuff going on. I do miss some of the weirder beasts from like the late 80s and stuff. I know, Hoobs, you're probably a fan of this. This has got to end up in your project. They were going through the old, I mentioned this, Andy and Rem, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we're going through the old catalog for beasts when they had like the ostrich beast and the frog beast and all these weird different beasts of chaos that were just, human animal hybrids. Bring that stuff back. But eventually they settled on goats, right? As being the sort of main thing.
And cows. It's like all the barnyard animals.
Sure, I keep dragons. I definitely keep dragons in my barnyard, but yes. So, like, I think the army has a lot of strong adherents. It's got a good identity. And actual strengths, like, it can put bodies on the table like few other armies. It's fast for a mostly foot army. It actually has a surprising amount of explosive speed, right? It has a pretty good, like, its subfactions are flavorful. The battalions are interesting because you've got the concept of like the marked beastmen, right? The Slangor and Pestigor and Zangor and all of that being a long standing thing, right? And those battalions actually execute on that pretty faithfully and in a way that is actually like a pretty decent battalions. And you can wrap up most of an army, you have it in a one drop, it has most of the stuff you want. They're quite flexible. There are definitely some troops here, some items in the army that I think are valuable, although there's a lot we'll talk about that have some challenges. And I think their summoning is actually one of the best, like, summoning mechanics they've made. It's sensible, it's logical, you understand what's going on, there's a relatively reasonable cost to it, and it seems to summon at a pretty nice rate. It's not your strat, it's just a supplement, right? So, like, I think that there are a lot of strengths in the overall design of the army. I would also point out I like that they tried to create an identity for each of the types, right? In where, like, what I mean by that is they went the same route as, like, Skaven or Gits or stuff like that, where the Brayherd have a specific ability if they're ambushed. That's the thing they're known for, right? And the Thunderscorn have their whole, like, we're real fast and lightning charge thing, and the Bulgor have their whole, blood gorge thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, how successful or good those mechanics are, we can have a different discussion about, right? But I do like that concept that they tried to like mechanically distinguish that when they're in this army, each of them has like this thing that is speaking to their nature, to their fundamental nature, right? It's one of the reasons I rated this book high on design, because I think like some of the execution is lacking. No doubt about that. This is far from a perfectly designed book. Okay. But the ideas here that they put down are really solid. Like, the subfactions are interesting without being overwhelming. You could still see going normal. The concepts of buffing each of the individual types give them all their own identity. The battalions are interesting in how they flavor and fundamentally change the army or set you to the chaos gods, right? Like, there are concepts here that have a lot of potential. I think my summation of this army would be it's the army of a bunch of near misses that all came together to make something that's like so cool, so close, not quite there. Right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, that strikes me as just the history of Beast of Chaos.
Sure.
Like I got into this army somewhere around 2005 or something like that.
Okay.
And there are some armies, both in fantasy and even into AOS, that you can kind of always count on as being half decent. Beast of Chaos has always been underwhelming to some extent. Cool art, cool aesthetics, interesting rules, but the playability of them falls a little flat.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest thing for me is like their ambush ability, which to me, I think it should just be ambushing all the time, every time.
Right.
And I'm never excited enough by that ability to actually do it. Like,
right.
And doesn't matter what iteration of the rulebook it is, it always seems a little flat.
Yep.
But I completely agree with basically most of your points there.
Okay. Yeah, right on. Tom, but any other things you want to add to the like strengths or summary type area?
Yeah, I don't know what they do well.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, wounds,
like
board control, I would argue
be,
those things,
like,
right?
Yeah, like I'm not trying to be flippant there. It's just the reality of like what's
Chaff.
going on, right?
Look, they do chaff well. The whole army's chaff, so they got that on lock.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, yeah, like that's what. Yes, they chaff well. They have bodies. They have some mobility, but like hammers, anvils, magic, prayers. They don't do that well.
It feels like they have way too much variety and choice, such that they don't have anything that really works individually at times.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there's, let me give you an easy example of what I say when like you were that close, okay, but the miss is costly. I can sum up this whole book in one artifact. You ready? Okay.
Sure.
Spoils of the Warherds. So this is an artifact specifically for Warherd heroes, obviously, your Doom Bowl, right? Yep. And that would be the Herdstone Shard. Right away. Cool idea. Dig it. Love it. Flavorful. Okay. And what it allows what it's a buff. It's a buff artifact, which is cool for other things. So, and it's allowing units to use their Blood Greed to activate on a 5 or 6. Okay? Which is cool. So, all right, you got to say, well, what is Blood Greed, Vince? Well, Blood Greed is a cool ability that the Bulgors have. I'm flipping to it so I can read the exact text. Each unmodified wound roll of 6 for attacks made by this unit inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any normal damage. So, a standard mortal wound in addition, right? Good ability. Good ability. Adding in mortal wounds, more damage, always good. This moves it from a 6 to a 5 or 6. Great ability, right? Very potent. Very cool buff that you can put around your guy, around your Doom Bowl. Then we come to the near miss. When Bulgor units wholly within 6 inches of the bearer. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That is insanity. Like, these guys are on 50 mils. Okay, what are we talking about here? Like,
yeah.
these are 2-inch bases, and I gotta be wholly within 6. Like, that is, you gotta be, that Doombull has to literally be on top of those Bulgor, right? Which means that he, like, if one of them makes a charge and one of them doesn't, you lost the ability. If one of them piles in wrong, you lost the ability, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's such a cool artifact, almost,
Yeah.
right? But it's like it has everything. So many things in the army have like this one fundamental flaw that really come up and kick it, right?
Right.
And so I think that artifact really sums up the story of Beasts of Chaos right there. It's like, yes, yeah, okay, good, oh. Right? That's the emotional journey of reading BOC rules. Right?
It's so true.
Yep.
So all right, but I don't want, since we're going to talk about fixing a lot of stuff in this show, I like to start with the strengths because I don't want people to feel like I'm just bagging on it. There are people who do well with this army. It generally, best stats we recognize, does have a not the best record. Although I will point out on TTS, it had a pretty high win percentage. That was because very few people played it, and they happened to do quite well with it. So that's what we call non-statistical significance. But hey, good for those players. My point is people can do well with it, right? But it is an army that clearly requires a lot of play. It has to play. You have to play the scenario. You have to be you have to really be a great player already to do well with it because it has a lot of fatal flaws. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the fundamentals. So, there we go. Picture change. Picture change. Oh, why did my picture get big? It was supposed to be the right size. I sized it and then it got messed up. Sorry, I gotta fix my picture here. There we go. The fundamentals. I brought art for this since we didn't do a whole presentation, but I still wanted to have fun art pieces for everybody. Okay. The fundamentals. So I submit to you, gentlemen, there are 4 main fundamental challenges with this army. And I'm keen on your feedback, okay? Here we go. Fundamental challenge number 1, base size. There are a lot of models on bigger bases than they probably should be or are usable. Gore and Bestigor being on 32s with like 1-inch reach weapons. We'll circle back to our Gore friends later. Don't worry. I got a lot to say about them. Okay. But being on 32s is so challenging, right? As a in the current situation. Like here's a thought exercise for you, Tom. You know basically what a Bestigor's profile is, right? Like you've got a concept of it. Like these guys are good. 2 attacks, 4s and 3s, neg 1 rend, 1 damage. They can get bonus attacks, and they can blah 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 blah. They can get +1 to hit in the circumstances. Like they're good. It's a good unit.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yep.
But I want you to take Bestigor, and I want you to, in your head, put them on 25s. Okay? That unit, I would argue that unit is now more than twice as good. Just from that switch. I've changed nothing else.
I think it's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's true. The sort of smooth brain answer is, well, now you could fight with twice as many people because they can reach over the top of their friends, right?
Right.
Yeah, sure,
Right.
of course. Right? But just even piling in a bunch of 25s becomes easier than piling in a bunch of 32s, right? Just moving around yourself with a big horde is easier, right? And by the way, I hate 25s. Like what we've struck on, as I've said many times, I think 25 should go away. I think we should all be forced as a penance to put all our 25 mil troops onto 28s, and that would hurt me deep in my soul because I just rebased 300 Skaven on 25 mils, and I'd have to remake another 300 28 mil bases. But like the fact that they'll never do that because they know we'll literally riot. But the fact that they're like this are on 32s, not even 28s or something, right? Which even that would be better. It wouldn't solve the reach problem, but at least it would solve kind of some of the how many you can get into a physical space problem, right?
Yeah.
So it's just base size is fundamentally a challenge in this army. Even if you go up to like, even if you go up to like the bigger things like Dragon Ogres being on 90s, like oi shmoy, that's a big base, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a huge base to try to mitigate. All right, but that's fundamental number one. Number two, bravery. Bravery is a real challenge in this army. It's very low, and you have lots of big units, and you know, like that's not a great combination. I guess is what I would say. And it's cool because you have this terrain piece that can make you immune to battle shock, but that leads to number three problem in the fundamentals. Your terrain piece, which I argue one of the best terrain pieces in the game, for explaining why it's there. We all agree with that.
Yeah.
Its effect and use is so clearly disjointed from the way the army wants to play. It has this tiny aura to start and very slowly expands. In an army, like, so that would suit a castle strategy well, right? Or a slow creep, like a Zerg strategy, right? Where you want to creep. Just creep. Just creep. You have to know what you're referencing. Okay. So anyways, it would suit that kind of a style. But it doesn't. This army's like, wah, screaming lunatics. Not wah, but you know what I mean? Just like screaming lunatics running across the table.
Yeah.
At Mach 10. Right?
Yep.
And so they just, like, the army instantly is outside of any kind of concept of that thing. The only unit that gets to be immune to bravery for the whole game is your 10 Ungor you've got standing next to the fire. Your shaman is like hurling in there to burn bodies to summon stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So like, yeah, that's number three. And then finally the last one is just general synergy challenges. That Holy Within on the Herdstone chart, that's not the only thing like that. There's a lot of like sort of really rough synergies where a lot of things like that. Right? Where it's a good ability with a bad activation clause. Or a good ability with way too short of a Holy Within bubble. You know, something like that, right? Like, or it's a good ability, but it also has a ridiculous cost associated to it for, like, no reason. Right? When other armies are just getting better stuff without the cost. Okay?
Yeah.
So, they have a fundamental synergy challenge where, like, they're just paying so much, or it's so hard to get their synergies off. When you've got armies like Doc running around, you're like, I don't even know what to do with all these. I've got too many buffs. They just come out of here for free. So at any rate, there's my fundamentals. All right, what did I miss there, or what do you think about anything I said? Let me start with you there, buddy, this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. The base size is definitely a problem. Bestigor are like I said, probably one of the better units, but that definitely comes around when you're talking about Gores with the larger base. That's definitely a huge liability for them. I would say in general that there's some War Scroll changes that are probably necessary here. Like there are just some units that, much like the Fiend Bloods and Hedonites, it doesn't really matter what point cost you really put them at. They're just terrible.
Right.
And there's a lot of units in this book that you'll probably just never take. And I'm looking at the point values, and so some of them are really cheap. And so like I don't think like reducing them further is quite the answer necessarily.
Right.
There are a few exceptions. Bulgors are generally considered overcosted for their point cost, but I tend to push back on that a little bit because GW likes to find what the ideal point cost should be and then tries to kind of make it work. And I think 140 is where they should be. It's just that they're a little underwhelming when it comes to the rules.
Yeah.
So in general, there's a few little tweaks in here, but yeah.
Yeah, and you know, somebody mentioned the base size. Like when I mentioned the base size thing earlier, somebody in the comments said, "Well, couldn't you just make their weapons a 2-inch reach?" I mean, I think for Bestigor you probably could. It still doesn't solve the fundamental like sort of movement-y challenge, right?
Sure.
You know, like one of the reasons that Storm Vermin are actually good is because they have basically the exact same profile. Like it's almost exactly the same profile.
Yeah.
In fact, it is basically the same profile, except they're on 25 mils. And like again, go to a 2-inch reach, then you're comparing against Storm Vermin, and it's like, well, Storm Vermin are just better, right? Because I can fight 3 ranks deep now, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
when I swing in with 40 storm vermin, I'm swinging in with basically all of those storm vermin. Like in most cases, I'll get at least 30 storm vermin fighting, and
Yeah.
that's just choppy time, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
So like, and the 32, no matter what, even if you solve it by like, yes, they can reach over their brothers, which is cool. It's still gonna have a challenge of actually just getting enough bodies in because that difference, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. As Swooper said, more generally, BOC have no proper hammer units and no anvils. I'm not sure that's wrong. Like I think that they have stuff that can do damage. I mean, I think a good sized block of Bestigor can do
Yeah.
damage. But
Yeah.
again, they're going to be fundamentally challenged versus other similar hammers by things like the base size and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and that's a real problem. I definitely agree they have no anvils. They're an anvilless army, but I'm not sure that actually matters. They kind of do the traditional body anvil, right? Where they just
Yeah.
like you can throw bodies at it, which is fine. Like that is a viable strat, by the way.
Hmm.
Like that's a pretty classic strat of just like, well, I'm gonna flood and you never kill anything of value. That works if you then have hammer units to actually hit back with. And that's kind of the challenge. Tom, what about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I just struggle with all of it, to be honest.
Okay.
I think that um, good generalmanship can make up for the holes,
Mm-hmm.
for the problems. Like you can play around it, right? But what I don't think, like I just, there are some things that you just can't get around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
it's
where
certainly not with this book. Yes, I mean that's what
Right.
we got to fix, right? So,
Right.
so let's talk about let's get into the fixing section here of this. How do we fix the fundamentals? This is challenging.
Yep.
You can pick whatever you want here. Okay.
Yep.
So I have a suggestion on how to fix the terrain piece. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. The terrain piece can set up basically anywhere you want. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like the stupid Nexus from the Bone Reapers, or the boats from IDK, or whatever. Not necessarily
Yep.
in your opponent's territory makes most sense. You'd probably set it up in mostly the center of the board, just like the Nexus is always set up, right?
Right.
But you can sort of set it up anywhere, and we extend its initial range, okay, out, and have it grow faster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what those numbers are. It's probably like 12 and 9 or something. Like so it's going to get big pretty fast. Because look, the game, I know we love this idea of like the 5-turn game. I love these things that escalate over 5 rounds.
Right.
I think those are all cute.
Yeah.
I appreciate your blood rights table and your tides and all of that, but let's be honest, like turn 4 and 5 often don't happen in games.
Right.
Not never, but often, right? And absolutely, coach. If it's in the middle of the table, it's just all that much closer for my breaker giant to smash that herdstone into smithereens. But like if it's in the middle of the board, or play, like somewhere where, or whatever, like kind of where they want, right? Generically, we'll call it the middle of the board, right?
Yep.
And you can then fight within this larger aura of it, right? Like, because ideally what you'd probably do is set it like still on your side, but back just slightly. So on your deployment line in most scenarios, you're still like, you have people within it, like your Ungor there, so they can then, get thrown in or whatever, right? And they're still within and they move up to it. And then it gives you like, you're fighting where you generally want to be fighting. And your thing is having an effect where it needs to be having an effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I would point out that like the like neg 1 armor effect off of the stone is a really potent effect, but it's so often completely pointless because the herdstone is sequestered somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? If you had it set up where it's actually like impacting a majority of the enemy army or some amount of the enemy army where the fighting's happening, you kind of are getting towards solving the hammer problem as well. Because when you knock a pip of armor off of basically the enemy army, that's significant. Right? That's getting around all that stuff that says like, oh, I'm immune to neg 1 rend with a plate of perfect perfection or whatever. Nope. No, you're not. Like, you can be immune to neg 1 rend, you ain't immune to this. Right? So, Like that could be a good way to go.
Yeah, no, I like that one.
What else? Do you guys have any other thoughts? What are your thoughts on how we fix some of this stuff?
With the Hearthstone, like, what if you kind of did like an opposite effect, where it had like a larger range but weaker aura that over the turns kind of go
More intense.
More intense, but maybe not as large.
Sure. So like maybe turn one, it's not making everything immune to battle shock, or something like that. It's just like if it had some kind of cumulative effect, like it could, it could start at some effect and then grow on turn 2 or 3 and then grow really crazy on turn 5. So turn 3 ends up becoming like a high tide type of turn.
Sure.
Yeah. I could see that. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, because you do want to be careful. Like there is at the same time, this army is so battle shock fragile.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I care that much if the whole center of it's battle shock immune, but I also wouldn't hate it if it was just like some big bravery bonus or something, right? So like battle shock could still be a thing, but like all of the beasts of chaos when they're within the range become bravery 10,
Sure,
right, or something like that. Sure, like we could go that direction too, right? That would be fine. Like that, maybe that's where it starts. Then it's not till like the end they just become immune to battle shocks. Daughters of Cain style.
Yeah.
Right? That would still go a long way to where, because right now the problem is you'll lose like 1 or 2 guys, which is not hard out of a unit, and then suddenly you're losing 2 or 3 more. Right? Yeah, you could. That's as Manzak or who pointed out. Sorry, Raymond pointed out. It could be that the more you sacrifice into it, the better the effect gets. Right? Instead of it being necessarily turn based, it could just be the amount of people you feed to it.
I like that. Yeah.
Is what, like, if you feed at least this many, it now moves from A to B to C, right? It has sort of 3 different stages of effect on the battlefield. I love that idea. I
like that a lot.
That nails it right there. Because, we got there. We got there. That's definitely the right answer. Raymond nailed it. Like, the more bodies you throw on it, the cooler the effect it gets, the more potent, right? The more immune to battle shock, the more rend, the more ruinous to everything it becomes. Yep. There we go. Dig it.
But that doesn't fix the war scrolls.
No, but I mean, we're not fixing the whole army yet. We're fixing the fundamentals, right? This is which isn't really the war scrolls. Don't worry, we're getting to war scrolls in a minute.
Right.
Don't worry, that's coming. Yeah. We got a lot to talk about there, right? And like, to me though, you've got to fix the fundamentals first, right? A lot of times, when you ask people like what they want to fix, they're like, I want another attack on my Bulgor, or I want the Hearthstone shard to be, wholly within 18, and I'm like, that's all fine. Like, all that stuff should be done, right? But it doesn't matter. The army's still going to be fundamentally flawed if we don't fix these like, you don't just like start building on a new skylight when your foundation's rotting. Right? If the castle's sinking into the swamp, start there. Okay?
Yep.
My honest answer is, on the base size thing, the best thing you can do is we've got to make the unit rolls fit the base size. And so Bestigor need to be killier, understanding that they're on 32s. So like pound for pound, they should be hitting harder at the same points value because they're on 32s. Like, that's where they actually paid part of their points cost.
Sure.
You understand what I'm saying? Like that.
Yeah.
That is a cost in there. And so they should hit harder and have like a 2-inch reach. And we just go, but because we pumped up their offense, right? We put them on like 3s and 3s all the time or something like that.
They're 3s and 3s on the charge, neg 1, rend 1.
So they are no. Their normal profile is 2 attacks, 4s, 3s, neg 1, 1. Okay? Now, if they target an enemy unit with 10 or more models, not their unit, if they target an enemy unit with 10 or more models, they get +1 to hit. Okay?
Right.
If they attack order units, they get reroll hit rolls of 1. Okay? And they get +1 attack if they charged. So they have these 3 different conditional bonuses, right?
Yeah.
And my argument would be just nix some of that conditionality, right? And just like make them 3s and 3s all the time. Probably give them the +1 attack all the time, right? Just
They're
3 attacks
so
at
bad.
3s, neg 1 and 1. Keep them basically at the same point cost, or a little bit higher. Maybe we bump them like 10 points or something like that. You know, pretty minimal. And then you can give them like their fun reroll ones to hit against order. Like that's cool. That's a neat, flavorful thing.
Yeah.
You know, like that's okay. Sure, why not? Right? That just speaks to what they're about. Like that's one conditional rule. I don't like scrolls that have like 3 conditional rules. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you did something like that, right, then suddenly that unit is actually hitting for the weight it should be on a 32 mil base. That would be my argument, right?
Yeah. I've always looked at Bestigor as being arguably an ironic, in some ways, one of the best units in the game, or at least in the book, sorry. Because you can stack it a little better than some of the other options that given to you. And it's kind of ironic that it does seem a little underwhelming, even in that context. But they have some upside there. But I totally agree with you. Most of these should just be increased in their power and their potency to a certain extent, because like they die in droves. They take up a big portion of the board. Yeah,
exactly. Now, some people have said, what if we made like the Beast Lord or something also count as a herd stone? I don't know. Like I'm sus of stuff like that, because then you're constantly measuring this weird aura around him, and he's carrying around like if you said
hold on. You mean like Slaves of Darkness have to do?
No, because you're also measuring it for the enemy. If you were just gonna say that's like. My point is, if you were just measuring for the battle shock type stuff, if he was affecting the bravery in a big way, I'm all for that, right?
Yeah.
If he's broadcasting an aura of -1 rend around, or you know what I mean, like -1 to armor saves, that gets a little weirder. That's what I would say. So I mean, I just feel like we can do other things with the Beast Lord. Like, but don't worry, we're gonna get to the Beast Lord. he's coming up. We're gonna have some words for him. But, like, I think there's just other things we could do with him, that he doesn't need to just be, like, a walking herdstone.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then on the synergy challenges, the answer is just fix that crap.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the easiest fix. This is honestly the one that has the least complexity to it. It's fine. Take stuff like the Herdstone Shard and make it wholly within 12 or 15 or whatever, right? Like, just be reasonable with it. Yeah. Take all the bonuses that say, like, you have to do this crazy thing and then you get a bonus, and just get rid of the crazy thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, take the stuff that is a buff that also has a weird cost to it for no apparent reason, when most other armies just get that buff on a spell or something, and just make that the thing, right? Like, this one's the easiest fix. Just stop writing in all these weird caveats for no reason, right? It's not like Skaven, where it's fundamentally functional, and then I can choose to, like, do this crazy, to do it at a higher power, but potentially suffer a negative effect, right? That happens on the backside. You know, Skaven are the good version of cost, because you're like, okay, do I just do a D3 wounds, or do I go for the D6 mortals, but then if I fail, I blow myself up, right? I get to make that decision actively. And time to time, I can figure out what's right, right? This is like, well, nope, you have to suffer all the cost, and then maybe you get the benefit. Maybe. That's my problem, right? Cool. Anything else we want to say on fundamentals before we get to the next section?
How would you fix the ability to ambush? Because I feel like that's should be one of the primary components of this army, and I think it's just mostly moving on from the board edge. It's probably not always the best. It doesn't feel like a true ambush.
Yep.
None of the units pack that much of a punch. If you wanted to limit it, you could probably just make it gores and ungores, but maybe just always put them in a way that they're able to get into the enemy right away, as opposed to,
what if it was a 6-inch setup?
Yeah, it's just something like that. I don't know.
That's an interesting option. Yeah,
like the Stormcast Hunters, gives them a much more reliable charge. Like, they are in you more reliably.
The problem there is that they're already a pretty fast army, and they can run and charge, and so I feel like it's more on the backboard that they need the help, than on the front line. But
so I've got a couple thoughts. I think there's multiple directions you could go with this, and I'm not sure I would know which way the right way to go is. I thank you for bringing that up. This is a great call out on the ambushing thing. So here's my first thing with ambush. Like, ambush is another great example of like, oh, you almost got it, right? I actually am not sure that the moving on from the board edge is a huge problem. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We can talk about it, right? The problem with the ambush is that at the end of your first movement phase is when you have to set them up, right? And yes, I know you can manipulate that to the second turn.
What if they were just like the hunter from ogres? They could just show up.
Correct.
Surprise.
That's what I'm looking for.
The hunter and the cat who just they just show up on the board anywhere you want.
Anywhere. Right.
And that's the right answer, right?
It would be a true ambush.
Yeah, the ambush.
Surprise, I'm in you.
Exactly. And we can talk about how Dark Walkers and should I be doing this type of ambush with Minotaurs and every other crazy thing later. But yes, that's the answer. Like, just talking about this allegiance ability specifically in Brayherd ambush. First of all, it shouldn't be into first turn. Right? It should just be like anything else where you have to come down by the end of turn 3 or the unit's slain. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same rule for the ogres and their cat. It's the same rule for Stormcasties and Ghosties and everybody else who does this thing. Right? Because that's what we've all come to as, like, the fair version of this rule. Right?
Yeah.
And by the way, there's no reason, like, even thematically or narratively, why the ambush would have to happen turn 1. Right? Like, you can lie in wait and ambush for a while. So, fine. And then 2 would be, yes, I agree. Just let him be in anywhere that's 9 inches away. Right? Like, just show up like the hunter and his cats. Great.
Yeah.
By the way, we can fix gores. I'll tell you, I struggled so hard earlier today trying to figure out how to fix gore. I actually did come up with one idea. Okay? So I'll tell you what. We'll get to it when we fix gore, but I actually think I can make gore interesting in this army. Okay? We'll see. This is a challenge. Can we make gore not just like the most pointless unit in existence?
It'll be a miracle.
All right. That was a good call. So yeah, that's how I'd fix that. By the way, all of these allegiance abilities probably need some tweaking. Like the Thunderscorn shouldn't be rolling a die and then moving that many inches. That's stupid and annoying. They should just like move a flat amount, right? In their hero phase, just they move some amount. I don't know what that number is. 3 inches, 5 inches. I don't care. Pick a number, right? It should just be that. That's what they move, right? And the Blood Gorge, okay, like the whole the Minotaur unit, just probably needs to go away and become some kind of like thundering charge thing. I understand why Blood Gorge is there. I understand the classic concept of it in the point of the Warherd, but like that's such a minimal heal on when it often doesn't matter. I would just rather see them have a completely different ability.
Yeah,
that's my honest answer.
If they're gonna keep it, it should be basically like if they kill like any amount of models, then they basically heal D3 or something like that, as opposed to like an entire unit.
Yeah, sure, exactly. Like, or you change it to like if they slain models. If a unit of Warherd has slain a model, then they heal D3 wounds and they gain +1 attack for the rest of the game.
Sure.
Right. So it ends up being like the Mega Boss's ability, right? Every time he slays a model, he's like +1 wound, +1 attack. This has no end, right? Something like that would be the right way to go. If you want to stick to the like post-fighting type of Blood Gorge, we sit there and feast on the dead concept, right?
Yep.
So, but I would accept either one. I would accept either like we have giant horns and are going to roll into you and trample over you, which I know is already there to some degree within the scrolls. But, yeah, whatever. Okay, cool. Anything else fundamentals? All right, let's move on. Here we go. We're kicking it off right away, gentlemen. We're going to start with what I call the monster problem. There is a monster problem in this book. That monster problem is dem monsters. Beasts of Chaos, unlike so many other armies, actually have a pretty big selection of monsters they can use, right? Mm-hmm. This is where all them fun monsters of chaos, as we used to know them, migrated, right? We've got our Jabberslythe and our Cockatrice and our Cygor and our Gorgon and a Chimera. We've got a Chaos Giant. Man, we've got fun stuff. We've even got stupid Razorgors if you want to count them in the mix, which I don't. We will not be fixing them. They are beyond help. Please throw those sculpts in the trash. Those should be put in the ash bin of history. I'm sorry if you love Razorgors. I have no help for you. There will be no help for you in this show. Those things should be gotten rid of. But at any rate, the monsters. I mean, look, the problem here is obvious. We've talked about monsters on this show many times before, right? Yep. That monsters without a hero are fundamentally the worst unit in the game, right out of the gate. They have the least board control, the least objective controlling power, the least presence, right? The lowest wounds to points ratio often. Mm-hmm. Low defense. They fall down really fast in their offensive power, right? Because they chart so hard, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a lot of problems. And W. Soren said the guy who converted his Gorgon into a keeper. I would point out I do have 4 Gorgon that are actually Gorgon, and then 1 Gorgon who became a keeper. So I like Chaos monsters. I have 4 Gorgon and 5 Chimera, 2 Cockatrices. Like, I'm repping this. Okay, I've got a stake in Monsters of Chaos. I am a buyer, son. Okay. So at any rate, we know that's a big problem. Their wound charts are all horrible. None of them do enough damage. Most of them have really bad synergies. Like, a few of them have some synergy because they actually fall into, like, Warherd or whatever. But a lot of them are just synergyless with the rest of the army, other than a spell or two. Other than a funny skew army of, like, 16 Chimera, sorry, not Chimera, 6, that'd be really interesting. 16 Cockatrices, right? It's like, okay, what, yeah, now let's play a real army, right? Yeah. This is a problem. All right? Mm-hmm. So, gentlemen, how do we fix the monster problem? What do we do here? Because we got to, obviously, this means some scroll rewrites. Obviously, right? Unless you're going to fundamentally fix all the monsters and the beasts some other way. I'm open to suggestions, both mundane and radical. So, what are you feeling here?
They're hard to fix.
Yeah,
I definitely do think some more scroll changes are necessary. Like, some of them can hit pretty hard, mm-hmm. But they fold like paper. They're pretty weak defensively. Like, if there's an army that calls out for a monster mash army, like, it should be this one, where you could just kind of take a whole bunch of monsters and have some of them as battle line and kind of just do a monster army, but you can't do anything. And the individual rules, some of these are just atrocious. Some of these are just abysmal.
Like, there is no point value where the Cygor becomes worth it.
No, not really. No, it does like 1 damage. Some, I think, are pretty cool. I know when the book first came out, you guys were pretty excited for the Chimera.
Yeah. I still love him. I love the Chimera so much. He just charts so fast.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They fold with us. He is really cheap, though, because these are pretty old models. So you can buy them really cheap. But
there's a reason I have 5 of them.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just think most of these just need a rewrite so that they don't fold quite as fast. And give me a use to put them in. I like an army that looks thematic, and like having a whole bunch of Gors and Ungors and other beastmen, and then just 1 or 2 random weird monsters. Yeah. Doesn't quite work for me that much. So I like to see something that is a little more thematic in terms of, which is why I like a monster mash army build, like an actual army build that's just pure monsters. I think would be kind of fun.
Yep.
But it's not there.
Yep. Tom, what about you? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think the answer is to make monsters more appealing in this army. Like, honestly, I think that's the way you do it.
Okay.
And what does that look like? I don't know. Maybe you create monstrous traits for those factions, like for all of those monsters. You also add an ability to, I don't know, where do we want to go with this? Let's say that so in addition to having the traits, you just blanket remove restrictions on number of monsters in the army.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about that. And then maybe have a sub-faction that lets you go like hog wild on monsters.
Yeah.
Nice.
And, so some of these point values need to be probably changed and adjusted a little bit.
Yeah. So I like where, Tom, where you seized on that I really think is the right answer there is, I would love to see the sub-factions taken through a more modern lens. We'll talk about sub-factions at the end. After we get through everything, we'll kind of wrap up with sub-factions. Now, with all of our fixes, how do we build the new sub-factions? That's why I actually placed them at the end. But I agree completely. Like, having a sub-faction that was like Thunder Lizards and Seraphon, right? Where it said, hey, we'll take your monsters and we'll put them into overdrive, right? Yes. Number 2 would be all these monsters need to start bracketing like turtles, right? Where they can take a decent, like, half their wounds or darn near it before they start going down.
Yep.
Right? So like that would just solve so many problems on its own right there, because then things like the Chimera wouldn't just instantly go to crap because somebody looked at them funny. Right? Number 3 is we need to like take some of these monsters' damages and clearly push them up. Like, they just don't hit hard enough for what they are. And by the way, I'd be okay if that also meant a commensurate points increase, like a small points increase, but they hit 50 points harder but go 20 points up. That's kind of what I'm talking about there conceptually, right? Yeah. Because they should be like bully units that are pretty scary and can get into people and do work, right?
Right.
They shouldn't be rolling over or getting stuck on chaff units of 10 guys. But that's what's going to happen with a lot of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then for the Gorgon, who I really think the Gorgon is like...
He's pretty good.
He's the emblematic monster of this faction. Like,
yeah.
Okay? I know there's people who love Cygors and stuff, but to me, the Gorgon is like the monster of Beasts of Chaos, right? If I said, what is the monster associated with Beasts of Chaos? It's the Gorgon.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So for him, we're going to do a special chart, okay? And his chart's he has an inverted chart. And what I mean by that is he starts slightly better than he is now. And as he suffers wounds, he gets better. Just all the way down the line. He just starts improving. If you don't flatline him, he just gets stronger. He gets angrier, and he starts just like ripping people apart and punching holes in people, right? So like his chart would just be like an additional attack and more damage or whatever, right? Like his chart would just be all bonuses. So as he charts, he gets scarier, right?
I love that. Yeah.
And that would actually make him be a really good bully, because the key to bullies is like the key to a good bully unit is you want people to have to overcommit to it, right? You want to send it down one side into an area that's like on a flank or doesn't really matter, and you're trying to get your enemy to overcommit to that piece, right? And having a inverse chart like that, where it gets angrier and more deadly the more wounded it gets, means your enemy has to overcommit to it, right? Because they know they need to kill it, or it's just going to like rip down the back of their line, blowing everything it touches up. Because suddenly it's some lunatic with like, 12 attacks coming out of its big blades or whatever for 3 damage apiece.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That to me says like that's how it would stand apart and be different if the other ones were all just tougher. They could take like half their wound value. Like, so, the Cygor and everything else and the Chimera, they can suffer like 6-7 wounds before they start charting at all. Great. Okay. Decent. We've solved a lot of the problem. If we also then commensurately kind of push them a little bit. Yeah. So that's how I solved the monster problem. I think that answers all of it. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff, guys. All right. We did it. We solved monsters. Okay, I missed where the change
Done.
was for monsters, but I'll have to get that after the show. All right, so now troop challenges. All
boy.
right. Let's talk about them troops. A lot to talk about in here. Lots to talk about. This is a horde army, and hordes are actually hordes are actually pretty bad for reasons we've talked about and beyond. They're susceptible to bravery hits. They're on big bases. Hordes generally are sus when they're low bravery and this kind of stuff. Gore, pointless. They're one of the most pointless scrolls I've ever seen. They have no role, no purpose. Bulgor don't hit hard enough and are hard to manage. And Dragon Ogres are on way too big a bases for what they're trying to do, which is be like bad pigs. And all of the Zan stuff, insert Zan whatever here, right? So your entire Zan section of this book, all the Zan things I'm flipping through, right? Need to figure out what they're doing in this army.
Yes.
And
they need to have a purpose.
They need to stop paying the price for Tzeentch's nonsense. Right? Yeah. That's the problem. These poor guys keep paying for the fact that they're just better in Tzeentch.
Yeah.
Okay. And even there, they're not that good, by the by. So, challenging. Okay. So, let's talk about how we fix some stuff here, gentlemen. Like I said, I'll do Gore, but I'll save that. When it comes to the regular troops, what do you got? What do you got for fixes or thoughts? Tom, you want to start us off here on this one?
Make the Raiders useful.
I mean, wow, you're starting off, you're talking about Ungor Raiders. Probably what everybody in this audience thinks is the most useful unit in the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right. Because let me just point out that, you can say they're useful.
Yeah.
I understand the desire to, espouse their usefulness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that, you remember those Bliss Barb archers?
Sure.
That we talked about last week?
Yeah.
And how everybody was saying that they were, bad.
I do remember that, yeah. It was quite a conversation, yes.
Raiders shooting is worse than them.
Yeah, sure, but the argument... Okay, but that's a false... I get where you're going, but that's a false parallel. You don't buy Ungor Raiders only for the shooting, and I would also point out that Bliss Barbs are 160 points, as opposed to Ungor Raiders being 80 points for the same number of
I don't care if you're getting double the number of shots.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Which you're not, by the way.
No, it's the same. You would get literally the same number of shots if you bought them. You'd have 10 more wounds, but the same number of shots.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I just what I'm saying is I think usable shooting in this army would be really interesting.
Okay.
That's what has my attention.
Coming out strong. All right. So let's talk. So obviously they have both a pregame move and or they can ambush. This is generally why you take them, right?
Yeah.
It's usually a pregame move. Right? They're a pregame screen, which is cool. Right. We all agree that pregame moves are cool. So no issue there, right? They don't need to lose that. May I suggest some options here? Okay. Because I'm not sure their shooting is actually bad. It is what it is. They're a bunch of bodies, and they can be on 4s and 4s, no rend 1 damage, reroll 1s and 2s to hit decently enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think their flaw is they have no ability to become battle line.
Agreed.
When they're clearly basic Ungor that by all accounts should have some way to just be your battle line dudes.
Yeah.
Right? I think that alone would go a long way. Let me pitch to you Ungor Raiders.
Really curious.
Sure. Yeah. Here, let me pitch to you Ungor Raiders that are 10 points cheaper and are battle line in a Beast of Chaos army.
They'd be awesome then.
Right? Doesn't that feel 70 points for that? That feels like a good unit, right? Still has the pregame move or could ambush. Remember, it's using our new better ambush now, right?
Right.
Because we fixed ambush already, so now I'm just cascading these changes, right?
Right.
That suddenly feels like, okay, yeah, that unit's got some play as my battle line. Like, I could see that, because I can put them in the list and be like, well, if I want to ambush with them, I can ambush. I'm filling my battle line stuff up. And if I need to pregame move, I can pregame move. Right? So, like, it gives me quite a bit of flexibility in how I use my battle line. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you could either make them 70 points for 10, or you could give them a big fat horde discount. I'd kind of just prefer to make them cheaper per 10, but either way works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me tell you guys here. You ready? Here we go.
Yep.
Let's fix it all. Everybody needs a roll. The problem with this army right now is rolls. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take all of these individual units. We're going to give them all a roll, and they're all going to do something. So here we go. All right, roll number 1. What are Ungor? Ungor are chaff. No question, they serve that role perfectly. They're cheap. They die in droves. They're perfect. They're one of the best units in the book. They are battle line A+. Always, never change Ungor. You little pot-bellied, adorable dudes. A+ work all the way home. Okay, great. They're done. Ungor Raiders, we just fixed them. What's their role? They're your versatile screen, right? They can ambush for shots, or they can pre-screen, or whatever, right? And if they're battle line, then that's cool. That gives you some more flexibility in other ways, okay? And we made them a little cheaper. All right, Bulgor, hammer. They're a hammer. We talked earlier about how we need a hammer, right?
Yeah,
we have 2 hammers now in this army. Bestigor, which we already fixed earlier, right?
Right.
And Bulgor, okay?
Yep.
So Bulgor are a hammer, and give me 1 second. Okay, so Bulgor are become your hammer. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take their scrolls and we're just gonna ramp it up, right? I mean, it's that simple. Like,
Yep.
we're gonna give them better stats, not 4s to hit. We're gonna put them on 3s to hit and 3s to wound. We're gonna give them an actual 2-inch reach, right? With their giant axes. That, like, as somebody pointed out earlier today, the axe head is bigger than an inch long. Okay.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
the literal head of the axe is bigger than an inch.
Yeah, the 1 inch is ridiculous on those guys.
Like, how does it even mathematically work that they can't reach 2 inches, when if they just went like this, it would be they're just, if it falls forward, they're farther than an inch out. Right?
Wow.
So and then if we combined it with like a Blood Greed that was good, or sorry, Blood Gorge, I apologize, Blood Gorge that was good, right? Where it like either added bonus attacks on after party or gave them impact hits on the way in. Either one of those things is going to make them into a hammer, right? Okay, that's them fixed. They're good. Dragon Ogres, okay, stop being bad pigs and pretending like you're anything else. Let's make these guys an anvil, okay? Because they're just bad pigs right now. They're pigs without any of this energy. Okay, like you'll never be pigs. Don't try. Okay. So we're just gonna make these guys into an anvil. We're gonna take Dragon Ogres. We're gonna give them the same thing, and they're gonna be a mobile anvil, which I think is really useful in this army because they're gonna keep that Thunderscorn move every turn in the hero phase. Blah 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 blah. Right. And they're pretty fast at 8 inches or whatever. And what we're actually just trying to do is run places and receive charges. Right. Like be able to sit there and take it. So we're going to take Dragon Ogres. We're going to put them up to 6 wounds from 5. Okay. And we're going to put them on a 3-up save.
Yep.
Right? And damage-wise, we're changing nothing. They still hit like how they hit.
Yeah, I like it.
Which is not good. But that's fine. That's okay. It's not their point. Their point isn't to do damage, right? So, like, they just, like, we kind of hit you with our weapons, but our point is not to die. Right? And if the unit suddenly had 18 wounds and was on a 3-up save, that would actually go a huge distance in making it tougher. And they'd be fast enough to get out there and basically catch up the enemies, right? And there you go. Like, that's done and dusted. We now have distinct roles for all of the major sort of traditional beasts units, right? And like, you would then, when you're building your army, you would actually be filling like the roles armies get filled with, right? You wouldn't be going like, well, I could take these guys who do this role, or these other guys who do this role a little worse, or the other guys who do the same role but even worse than that, which is the situation they're in right now, right? Because too many of these scrolls are just written to be the exact same thing. To be like mildly damaged, aggressive guys running forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot, actually.
Yeah. All right, awesome. And then to me, it's like, people will be like, well, what about Centigore and all this other crap? And I'm like, or Tuskor chariots, or I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
They can just exist. It's not a priority to me, right? Because like, if they're whatever, it's fine. Should chariots do impact hits? Sure, probably. Right? Yeah. Like, great.
That's the least of the army's worries right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the ancillary stuff is all fun if the foundation of the army works, which is everything I just mentioned.
Yeah. And those are basically all the models that need a brand new model too. Like those are kind of all the old kits that are kind of still kind of, I think, mostly resin, outdated.
Yep.
Things that are just awkward.
Now, I didn't fix Gores, so
let's go back to that.
So I filled all the roles, right?
Yeah.
And I still didn't touch Gores. So the question is, what are we doing with Gore? The Gore problem.
You get rid of him. There's too many troops anyways.
No, it's fine. We can keep Gore, okay? All right. Here's what Gore are going to do. Okay? Gore are going to be your ambush masters. Okay? Yep. This is their purpose.
I like it.
So what Gore's purpose are basically as mainline troops, we just don't need them. And there's no place we're going to put them in worse than Bestigor, but better than Ungor. That's literally going to make sense. Yeah. Right? Because it just, that role doesn't exist. You're either chaff and your point is to die and I want you as cheap as possible, or you're a hammer and I want you to actually do damage. Middling does nothing. Okay? Right. But ambushing and just tying people up is actually useful and threatening. Okay? So, especially when it comes to getting into shooting units, backfielding people, threatening back objectives, stuff like that. Okay? Mm-hmm. So here's what Gore are going to do. Gore they're going to have an ability called Masters of the Ambush. Okay, or something like that. And on the turn, Gores come off the board. Mm-hmm. Get set up using their ambushing Brayherd ability or whatever, right? They get +3 to charge. And +1 attack. Okay? Now, does that make them able to go in and just absolutely destroy units? No. Absolutely not. Not even close. But I'm going to keep their points cost relatively the same. Right?
Okay.
And so by making them these ambush masters, they're the Gore, the things around in the woods, these little beady eyes in the woods ready to swoop in and surround you. If everybody else is doing the role, a couple units of Gore ready to sweep in, land, basically putting them on a 6-inch charge, right? When they come in, having a decentish number of attacks, even though it's on bad numbers, right?
Yeah.
Will allow them to get in, tie up backfield units, basically put pressure on, right? Threaten back objectives, stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Manzak, I think I made Bestigor elite when I put him at 3 attacks on 3s and 3s, neg 1 damage. So I mean, I agree they should be elite, which I think I made them into, right? So and only moved them up 10 points, so that would be my ultimate build for them. Now everybody has a purpose. I think that's the best you can do with Gore. Maybe if somebody else has a better ability or a better idea. But I think that would make sense for them then. Okay, they're doing something. Right?
Yep. No, I totally agree. When it comes to the army, I've always associated Gore as being one of the main components, in terms of what the army should appear like on the table. and they've always just been so underwhelming ever since the Age of Sigmar, really. But yeah, no, I mean, and even before, they really do lack that role. That they just don't have the capacity to kill anything. They take up room in the front of your army. Yeah, no, I completely agree. The ability to kind of make them ambush and make them have some sort of threat in that back quarter would be nice.
Sure. Yeah. And you know, Colin says, well, they'll still suffer from retaliation. I don't disagree, right?
Yeah.
Like, we can play with whatever bravery change we need there or something. Yes, maybe they're susceptible to that, but at least you control the engagement, right? You can take a unit of 10, you can come in, you can clip somebody. You can clip a catapult or something like that in OPR, right? Shut it down. You can get into a shooting unit that has no melee power, and now they can only target the gore. The point is, like, yeah, they're there to die, right? But you're using them to... That's why I'm keeping them cheap. So they can, like, I haven't moved them off their 70 points or whatever, right? But they're then there to, like, tie up units, cause a problem, and get in the way of your enemy's battle plans, right? Suddenly they can't move unless they retreat or, you know, whatever, right? There's lots of stuff that can... That's a very useful unit at that point, even if it's not showing up and actually exploding when it hits. It's a finesse unit to use, I don't disagree, but I think it's actually a really useful unit.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's my thoughts. Okay. Have we fixed troops? Anything else, gentlemen, you want to say on troops?
No, I think it looks good.
Cool. All right.
It's an amazing army now.
We're doing it. We're moving along. All right. So next up, Okay, next up, leaders. We got some leader questions. Okay. So, leader questions. There are some challenges to the leaders in this book, namely that they die real easy.
It's an understatement.
Yeah. So, now there are some good ones too here. I think, like, the Doom Bull in its current form, at its current price point, is like, it's not bad. You know, he's fine. He's okay.
Yeah, it's pretty darn good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Should he have, like, one more attack with his slaughter attacks?
He's no Slanesh hero.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. 100 point. Wait a minute. Hold on. 100 points for an 8 wound hero with a 7-inch move and a 4-up save that has -2 rend and 3 damage. How much is that? 220 points?
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Them Slanesh numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like 100 points. Should he have one more attack? Yeah, probably. Like, if you're going to keep him at like 100 points, you should probably be on like 4 attacks, right? Just because he's still kind of swingy. Yep. But then I'd feel fine about him like that. Like, dude's cool for 100 points. It's a good hero.
Yep. Yep.
Okay? But the Beast Lord is just like, he's weak. He has one of the worst command abilities that's ever been committed to ink in the history of command abilities.
I think I've managed to get that off like once.
Yeah, it's insane. I would actually say the Bray Shaman stands out as like a pretty decent hero. Like, the standouts to me are the Bray Shaman and the Doom Bull. And then probably the Zangor Shaman right behind them, right? Who's also pretty useful. I think where we've got opportunity, really the Beast Lord is the most offensive one. But then I would also argue the Shaggoth is kind of like, okay, well, I'm overpaying for this monster caster. Right? Like, he's not doing enough different to sort of justify his existence, right? Like, yeah, okay, he's got 10 wounds. That's cool. That's not bad. Don't get me wrong, right? But there still probably needs some work there.
Yep.
So what do you guys think about the leader situation? I mean, other than just fix the Beast Lord command ability so he has like a real command ability. Okay. But do we need to do more with him? Does he need to be more than a Claw Lord? I mean, that's what a Claw Lord is, right? Claw Lord is the same guy. It's the same frame. Almost to the T. It's the same frame as the Beast Lord. Right? It's a 5 wound guy with a 6-inch move on a 4-up save who's like Bravery 7. I mean, I think the Claw Lord might only actually be Bravery 6 or something, but he's a Claw Lord. And I use Claw Lords all the time in Skaven because they have a great command ability called +1 attack, which is awesome with them Storm Vermin aforementioned, right?
Yes.
So, like, if we just gave this guy a real command ability, is that fine?
I think so. When you compare it to Skaven, you can do all sorts of weird things with that character that you can't do with the Beast Lord. Like there's all sorts of weird abilities you can potentially
you can
use it.
scurry away. You've got your command trait for Verminous Valor. You always get a take, so you can have like a 4-up, feel no pain, basically. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I maybe he needs to be slightly more killy. Probably increase his damage to 2, and then probably give him just a decent command ability that can actually do something. And because I like the flavor of it, it's just it's too limited in terms of its actual ability.
Yep, agreed. Tom, what do you think about this guy? How do you fix this guy?
I don't know. He's fine. I don't know, honestly.
All right, let me pitch something at you, Tom. Let me tell you if you like this.
Yeah.
Let's put him up 1 more wound. Okay, let's give him 6 wounds. I know it doesn't sound like a huge change, but it makes him catapult proof. Okay,
Sure.
like I'm always like that catapult is such a huge deal, right?
Yep.
So he can survive a catapult rock, right?
Yep.
And let's make his command ability. I'll give you a couple options. Here's option 1. Let's give him the same +1 attack like the Clawlord. Solid, reliable command ability. Vampires are doing it. Skaven are doing it. Why not Beast of Chaos too? Okay, let's just give him a good old +1 attack command ability. Just activate it. Done. Here's option 2. Retreat and charge.
I like it. Yeah.
Very mobile, very skirmishy.
Oh wait, on who?
Like a unit. He picks a unit and makes them retreat and charge.
Okay, the Doom Bowl does?
No, the Beast Lord.
Oh, Beast Lord. Sorry.
Yeah, the Beast Lord.
Yep.
So that's command ability the second, right? Retreat and charge. Okay.
Like these don't seem like a retreating army.
No, that's fine. I could see it. They're very skirmishy, so maybe like they seem like they're running around like lunatics. So I mean, I don't necessarily think of the blood murder obsessed Daughters of Cain as a retreaty army either, but they have a whole subfaction literally dedicated to it. So I mean,
because they're like tricksy and stuff.
Oh,
like
okay.
I just wonder if the right answer isn't to give them something like the Magmadroth charging ability that like lets you roll dice for every like kind of like the ogre charge.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To a unit.
Okay. So sort of like a desolating charge or something.
Yeah, like a like crashing through the underbrush or something. And let them like have a charging on mortal wounds to any unit, and then it's for every point of your charge, you roll dice on a 4-up, does a mortal.
Okay.
Like that seems like that's like right in the kind of wheelhouse, right?
Sure, like the concept that they're literally just ripping and ruining as they get into like that. You could call it rip and ruin. That's a good. There's
Ripping and tearing
name.
Yeah, I like it.
Sure.
Yeah, I think any of these would work. By the way, because he would be useful. Like anything we've mentioned, there'd be some kind of angle that would let him play.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
So like in his current command ability, if he kills any models, he gets to reroll wounds. If he kills a hero, they get to reroll both hits and wounds and it has a pretty good range. Like the 18-inch range for Brayherd units is pretty decent.
Sure.
You need to, at very minimum, remove like the hero or monster thing because he's just not going to be able to do that.
Sure.
In this current iteration.
Yeah, like the easiest answer would just be literally give him a command ability that says, pick a unit, they get to reroll hits and wounds.
Yeah, and then he'd be pretty good.
Right? Like
he'd definitely be something I'd take.
Yes. So like, that seems fine. But all of these I could see being functional. Right? And I think all of them could have play. What do we do with the Shaggoth? Does he just need to like be more of a presence, like make him more of a melee presence? So first of all, let's assume he's like a dragon ogre now. So he's got a 3-up save. Do we just Do we just maybe add a little bit of damage to him so he's actually like this sort of melee caster hybrid? Those aren't generally very successful.
Right.
But could be.
Yeah,
no reason it couldn't be.
I think if you increase the save, maybe dropped him slightly in points, he'd be pretty decent. Like he's not far off the mark. He's a he obviously needs the model's pretty old. He needs a brand new sculpt.
Sure.
But other than that, he's doing pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, my love would be if we gave him like put him to a 3-up save and actually upped his damage so he's some kind of threat, like because he's like a non-monster monster, right? I mean, I understand he has the monster keyword, but he doesn't have a chart, right?
Yeah.
But like, in my mind, I'm still thinking of like Kolek Sun Eater or whatever, these kind of like
Sure.
these dudes were scary.
Yeah.
This is like a real threat. So if he's like slightly tougher through the save and he can also put melee pressure on units by himself, okay.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe that's giving him some more damage with a weapon or something. Maybe that's giving him some more rend. Maybe that's just adding to his attacks. Maybe it's all of it, right?
Yeah.
But if you have him be a sort of melee in the thick of it wizard, that actually then opens up a lot of different potential as well. Because this army, like, Beast Lords seem like they want to get in combat, but it's not, not the best idea. So it'd be cool to have a leader you can actually take in with your troops and survive for some amount of time.
Yep.
Like the Doom Bull is going to be in there, but he ultimately is, not the toughest dude.
Yep.
So what if they just removed the tail attack and added more attacks on the axe instead?
100%. Just get rid of multiple like stupid profiles that don't do anything and just add axe attacks. Yes.
Yes. I mean, I don't think that model even has that much of a tail, so.
Yeah, he's got a little baby tail. It's not that big. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I think that'd be fun. Anything else on leaders we need to address?
No, I think as you pointed out, the shaman's pretty good. Like, a half decent spell. You mostly take him for the fact that you can move a little faster.
Yeah. Good movement buff. Like, Devolve is not a bad spell.
No.
He's fine. Like, yeah, I'm okay with the Great Brave Shaman. Like, he's cool.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. Good. That's all. Like, I think if you have those two things where, like, the Beast Lord is sort of the behind-the-lines hero who has a good buff, who can buff his troops, right? The Shaman is, like, the standard, mid-board caster. The Shaggoth and the Doom Bull are both kind of in the mix in some way, with one being more damaging and one being more anvil-y, probably. There you go. That's a nice... we've got a good suite of options there. Right?
Yep.
Okay. So, last topic. So now that we've fixed everything, let's now wrap it all up in our subfactions and support, right? How do we put this all together in the subfactions and support? All right. So, obviously we have our 3 existing, factions, All Herd, Darkwalkers, and Gavspawn. I would argue that we need to probably have a 4th. Okay.
Yep. And it needs to be monster-based.
And it needs to be the monster-based one. Yep, I agree. So make a 4th one that's all about like the monsters of chaos going on a rampage, right? Give us the Thunder Lizards equivalent here.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And then, every one of these is like, again, I like all 3 of these, but and I like that I don't feel like I have to take one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, all of them have things that I'm like, oh, that could be useful, but, right? So I'll give you an easy example. Let's talk about Dominator, which is the command trait for All Herd. Okay? You can reroll charge rolls made for friendly All Herd units wholly within 18 inches of this general. Okay.
Yep.
That's a cool command trait. Big bubble, rerolling charge rolls for everything, not a specific type. The only problem is I didn't finish reading the sentence. Okay? The rest of the sentence is, if this general is within 3 inches of any enemy units. Oh, come on. Okay. So I've got to have my heroes, none of whom are like, I mean, other than the Doom Bull, who still doesn't last very long, in
Right.
combat already to be rolling these charges, like, just,
It's brutal. It's brutal.
right? Like, some of these could be fixed just with, as we mentioned earlier, just cut out the nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yep,
just
true.
make the sentence end where I ended the first time. Done.
Yep.
Right? And we've got a perfectly serviceable command trait. All right?
Mm-hmm.
The command ability in this, which is Booming Roar, like you spend a command point and you receive 1 primordial call point. The problem with that one is that's not a fair trade. You're a generally command point starved army, and 1 CP just, or sorry, 1 primordial call point. 1 PCP is not worth a CP.
No. No.
Right?
Right.
That needs to be changed to like D3 at minimum or something in that regard, right? Kind of the same as when you throw bodies on the Herdstone, right? Then maybe it'd be worth it, because then it'd be cool. Okay, so got it. All Herd is sort of the summoning engine one. I understand what's going on here. I'm trying to get, bodies on the floor,
Yep.
and then I have the reroll charges thing. So when people show up, I can make them, charge appropriately, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, there'd be a concept here. I will point out that All Herd's like general ability feels like it's going the right direction, and then again, left turns into terrible. Subtract 1 from Battle Shock rolls made for all Herd units in the Battle Shock phase if they were picked to fight in the same combat phase of the same turn. Like, wow.
Why?
Wow.
Poor All Herd.
Like, no, guys, that's not an ability. That's nothing.
It's not
Thanks.
a thing.
I hate it. Like, what is that? Like, if you're like, it'd be neat to have All Herd be the summoning. We're pretty good with Battle Shock because we're all about a lot of bodies thing, right? But
Yep.
but this ability is nothing.
Yeah.
So give them a real trait, thank you, please, and thank you. Okay, like if it's gonna be the summoning one, just give them +1 to charge. Make
Yep.
the generic thing +1 to charge. That's the most boring way. I could think of probably 5 other more interesting rules, but my point is that's the floor. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
like that's where we start. You got to be at least this tall to ride this ride. Okay, and or make the ability Battle Shock reducing in a real way, so that way you don't feel bad about spending the CP on the summoning, right? So you can kind of go the other direction around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Make it so that all Herd units get like, +3 to bravery or something. I don't know, whatever. Like, do something. The numbers are so low here that even something like +3 is not a big deal, right? Or whatever. Then you don't feel bad about burning the bodies, burning your CP. Sorry, to get more call points, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. All right, Darkwalkers is obviously your like everybody can ambush one, right? I'm not sure you wouldn't need to change that if we ramp up the ambushing to be like just drop anywhere you want up to turn 3. Might be problematic, might not. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty limited as it is. Like, Stormcast can drop evocators and all sorts of nasty stuff anytime they want. I don't see them rock on the top tables because of it, so maybe it just doesn't matter. Maybe it's just fine. I need to think on it. But like, the things like the artifact being the Desolate Shard, like, I hate artifacts like this. They're like this once a game thing. You get to do this very particular thing, and then also on a roll, and then also random mortal wounds. Like, oh boy, that's a lot of caveats on that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
If you're like, and their command ability is such a cool idea of the teleport, but it just doesn't work. Again,
It's kind
just
of brutal.
yeah,
Yeah.
just make it look like the Calibron ability, if that's what we're gonna do. Or like what the Dread Harrow does, or whatever, right?
Yep.
That's the right answer for them. So you got beasts just running all over, disappearing into shadows and then reappearing in other places, right?
Yeah.
Like in the spooky videos.
Yep.
So there you go. And then the last one, my personal favorite, honestly. I think you and I, Hooves, are simpatico on this one. I'm a Gav Spawn man. You a Gav Spawn man?
I am, yes. I like this a lot.
Yes. Gav Spawn is cool. I don't want its main ability to change, where it like turns your heroes into Chaos Spawn. I think that's fantastic. It's actually really cool what it does to your calculation on little heroes like Beast Lords, because you're like, well, as you mentioned, like, well, 90 points for a Beast Lord, that's okay, but 90 points for a Beast Lord and a spawn that just gets to appear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's pretty sweet.
That's okay. Right.
The weird thing here too is I think people put spawn in their army, and I would tend to take more characters and be willing to have those just basically die on the board where you need them to, so that the spawn can pop and then you can move in with the extra attacks. But yeah, no, I this is a pretty decent one for sure.
It is. This has been my favorite for a long time. I think there's stuff that needs to be different, like the progenitor of de-evolution thing, whatever you say that, where you can get +1 to attacks. Love the command ability. Not sure about the nature of like trying to organize this isosceles triangle between your unit and your hero and the spawn or whatever. I guess the hero can kind of be anywhere. It's only really they need to be near the spawn. But like the fact that you've got 3 units in the mix. Like obviously they only have to be wholly within 12 of the spawn. But my thought is the bubble should probably be a little bigger on what that is. Like wholly within 15 would feel better than wholly within 12, honestly.
It'd make it a little easier to get off for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it should be like super stacking. I would honestly limit it to like you can only put it on a unit once. Like I would get rid of the stacking. I just don't think things like this should stack. Right? I just don't. But I think you build up then the rest of the sub-faction. Like I know that's gonna hurt people because I love this. I love exploiting this. I love building up like 3 or 4 command points and just like bam, 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 just hitting the button because it's cool. But it's just not a great thing, and it kind of leads you to overcommit in certain ways. When what it should be doing is like just trapped at 1, and the rest of the sub-faction should be better. Right.
Yep.
Like I would limit that back and then up things like I would get rid of the unraveling aura, honestly, in Gav Spawn. And if it's going to be the magic one, then make it a magic one. Like make it do something real, like give you +1 to cast and yada 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 or whatever, right? And additional spells and unbinds in a real way, okay? Or just make it something different, like make it something to do with the general theme of this thing, right? So. Like make it so if your wizard ever kills somebody with in any way, if the wizard ever kills a model in any way, then they become a spawn or something, or roll a die on a 4 if they become a spawn, so that the little Bray Shaman could literally just like arcane bolt a 1 wound dude and then pop a spawn into the middle of their unit, right?
Yep.
1, then cool, that unit's tied up. 2, that now a spawn that can then be like they're tripping the command ability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
So that's like that would be a really doubly interestingly useful ability that would be very unique and play into the sort of spawn centric nature of this, which is a cool angle, right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Chaos Spawn have this like for the rest of Chaos Spawn are a punishment, kind of the worst possible outcome. For Beastmen, it's like a desired end state, as it were, right? It's a reward. And so to me, that just feels like a really good play, right? Like that would be a neat thing. Like if every time at the end of whatever phase, if they've slain a model, roll a die on a 4-up, one of the slain models becomes a Chaos Spawn. Cool. Good.
Yep.
Something like that.
And I'm pretty sure they've had those abilities in the past too. So
yeah, sure. I mean, Tzeentch still has that crap.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not like it's out of character, right? For Chaos to be turning people into spawn. So I just think that'd be neat. And who doesn't love Chaos Spawn? They're just fun and weird, right? So, great. All right, gentlemen. Anything else we need to say about Beasts? I mean, I tell you, I think I'm hopeful we see a new book. I'm hopeful we see, in the realistic terms, I hope that some of these things we've talked about, like War Scroll changes, these could happen in Broken Realms, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason that we couldn't see some of this stuff in Broken Realms. And I can't wait to see what they do with Beasts. So I hope they realize they've got a real golden opportunity here with Beasts for an army a lot of people love and want to play, to do the same thing they did with IDK. Like, IDK was already a strong, overperforming army, and they still gave it a bunch of new improved scrolls to balance out the internal part of the army. This is an army people love that's underperforming. It needs the scroll treatment. Let's do it.
Yeah. This is an army that just needs a place in the actual story. Like, I think when you read a lot of stories, what's going on in AOS, it's very much like Skaven, where like beastmen are just being killed all the time in stories, but they're never actually the ones that are there to butcher the opponent. I would argue that one of their biggest weaknesses right now, just in terms of the narrative, is all their really cool heroes were kind of butchered and kind of killed off in End Times. They had 2 or 3 that had some really cool kind of backstory, and they need a new character model that is like the threat for Beastmen.
Agreed. Some kind of like special character or two that really like stand out in some way. I agree. Yeah, 100% agree. Like, Beasts are so ripe for interesting special characters. Like, leave the old ones that died dead. Honestly. They don't need to come back. But give us somebody new and cool and go that direction.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you go. Jeff asked, what about battalions? I think the battalions would be fine. Like, take the same battalion. Like, you need to, other than the fixes I already talked about, like some of the things we already tangentially mentioned them. Weird synergy things or tight holy withins, those would have all gotten improved in the fundamentals thing. So I meant that for battalions as well, because some of those have like really short range bonuses or stuff like that. So doesn't matter, right? Yep. And just like if those are fixed and you left the battalions as they were with all of these fixed units and rules, I think the battalions would be fine. I think the battalions are almost a strength, exempting those weird, tough synergies. So there you go. Okay, cool. Well, gentlemen, there we go. We fixed Beasts of Chaos. It's now a fun army. We can only hope that GW does the same. So if you're watching GWs, this is here for you as a resource. All of this is open source content. Feel free to borrow any of these ideas you like and go ahead and throw those into a book. You have my complete and total permission for that. So there you go. For all of you out there watching, hey, thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. You made it through this. This was a really fun one. Hit like if you haven't already. That like button helps other people find the show. It's great. That's all we need to do. And it's just a little slight move of your mouse from here to here and then boom. Or maybe just touch your phone or something like that. It's so easy. Subscribe if you haven't already. All that kind of fun stuff. Hooves, thank you for being here, brother.
Not a problem.
If you don't know Hooves, check out his channel. I'll link his channel down in the description below as well. A lot of fun videos. Hooves explores the really interesting aspects of AOS and language and stuff like that. You make some of my favorite videos. I always look forward to a Hooves video. So check him out. As to all of you, as I said, thank you so much for watching. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.